All right. Heat wave.
Heat wave. It's definitely a heat wave. We had 102 here yesterday, but the week before was beautiful, and this weekend should be just as. I think this is the last little pop we got. But you know what? What do you say? It's August. What do you expect? It's August 27th, the year 2024. Welcome aboard, everybody. Listen to the Crushing Iron podcast, and this is episode 793.
You got it.
God,
I thought for sure you would stumble on that.
No need for us to backtrack.
Yeah, thank God for the heat, man. You know, if it wasn't, if
we were getting soft,
if we didn't have the sun and the heat, who knows where we'd be?
Yeah, seriously, and we need this. We got a nice little. I mean, I think it's always nice to get that little. I think it's a 4 to 5 day span is fine because because it's been super hot. You can get out there and you can, let loose on some of your training and really kind of see the fitness you've built. Like if you're doing like something like you're doing in Wisconsin, the weather's, besides the years that it rains, it's pretty much always perfect in great temps and totally not what it's going to be like, right now. And so it is nice to like in your final phase of build to get a little glimpse of the fitness, right? Because I'm beating up, but then if it sticks around for like a week or two, totally get soft. I mean, you're totally soft. You go outside to cut the grass and you gotta feel like you get out of habit with your fueling approach. You've been running in 50s and 60s or 70s, hell 80s. No water, and you're going out for your runs or your rides, and it's nothing. Recovery's not bad, heart rate's low, power's high. Same thing when you run. It's great to go swim in the outdoor pool, and then as soon as the heat comes back, you're in for a hurting. It's like you got to reacclimate for like a week. So I think it's good. I think it's good that it's back, and it should be a nice little heat prep camp for those of you racing in really anywhere in September. I think most. Who knows with Chattanooga? You never know what you're going to get there, but Maryland should be fairly okay. Madison's almost always beautiful. Santa Cruz, yeah. So it's a good time of year, and it's always good to have the heat back. It's free sweat, baby. You just take your dog for a walk. I mean, Waffles can barely make it a mile now before he starts huffing and puffing, versus like the winter where he can go 4 to 5 miles like basically unfazed. So it's just the heat. It's just summer, but it's good for all of us.
Well, let's face it. I mean, it's running is stressful, period. So I think we get in habits of not fueling and hydrating when when it seems like it's nice out, but we have to take care of ourselves. And so this is a good reminder to get back in the hydration, nutrition phase, because cortisol will just wreck you, man.
What'd you say?
Cortisol will wreck you.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah, 100% will wreck us.
And stress, man. We go through stress,
Stress, for sure.
Heat reminds us that this is not easy no matter when we do it.
And it just, to me, it goes to show us like how easily we can get out of habit with doing things. And so again, I think it's a great time. It should be good. It's for time tuning in today. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. You have quite a lot of options in the Triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general in terms of variables. We appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. Mike and I also like to talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. We work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level athletes looking at the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back toward championships, and everyone in between from all over the globe. We use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion today. We also like to utilize our Facebook group, and we'll do that here in a minute. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, and a solid resource in a sport that is oftentimes way too confusing and way too complicated, or overcomplicated, rather. Now, we offer a nice, safe, actionable space to get great information from qualified individuals who've been around the block and willing to share their advice to hopefully allow you to avoid some of the same pitfalls and mistakes they have made along the way. We go in there about once every 3 to 6 weeks, like we will today, do a bit of a Q&A, take the pulse of the community, take as many questions as we can from the members at large, and do our best to answer as many of them as we can. And that is it. We have no sponsors. We have no ads, but we do have an agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, and it was hot yesterday, so I decided to go for a nice little open water swim to cool off. And you'll be happy to know my Garmin had me at a crisp 2:45-100 pace, which is great for my confidence going into Ironman Wisconsin.
Just what the he needs, right?
Yeah, it's boy, it felt good, but man, that could be a little bit of a problem.
Oh, hey, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen an open water pace you've trusted?
No. I kind of joke
unless
about
it was
that.
Chat 70.3 or Ironman Chattanooga, and you're like, yeah, that's definitely me.
That's accurate.
Right there, but
115, that's more accurate.
Exactly. Like that's more my wheelhouse. I've never seen one ever. They're like athletes that go out and swim in open water and training. They're like, yeah, it's 240. It's the same thing, like 240 pace, and I just can't put it together in open water. I'm like, listen, there's absolutely, I take absolutely nothing from it. I just think the GPS and watches are just, for some reason, they can't do water. It doesn't work very well. And even the form goggles are way off. So I think it's just, you go in there, you get the time in, and I do find that the race times and distances are pretty accurate. So, again, it's not like those are, inaccurate, but I've always found that those are a lot more true than going out and and maybe it's just you're just not in race mode, but yeah, I definitely feel like that's
but your watch time is always off, right?
That's true.
Or actually, the watch time's probably more accurate. I don't know, because you're swimming further. So in a race, usually most people swim a little further. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true as well.
But either way, it's just about feeling good, right?
It's all about feeling good. We wanted you to feel good because that's what's most important to us. And put a little bit of a Q&A in the Facebook group today. So we have quite a list of questions. And I semi trolled a little bit with one of my questions in there, which was, how do you deal with last minute changes to race courses? And I was a little bit of a troll to the Ironman Chattanooga participants.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are in waiting. Unluckily enough, neither Mike or I live there anymore, so we have no pull. I could usually pull some strings on the Tennessee side, and Mike could take care of the Georgia side. So we're no help. But there have been a lot of rumblings that the bike course is going to change dramatically. It won't be allowed to go into Georgia, so that could create quite a few problems, or at least like that part of Georgia. And so the bike course is going to allegedly change. So, no one knows the bike course map. If you go to IronmanChattanooga.com, the bike course map is now totally off the website. So a lot of the rumor mill, but so I kind of locked that one in there. And I think a lot of people were going, panicking and listen, it's 112 to 116 miles no matter what. If it's going to change, and is it probably going to be in your favor? No, because they made it 116 miles to make it the flattest, fastest course possible. I think to this day, it's your fastest Ironman bike split, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, with 4 extra miles. It's most people's. Yeah, I mean, it's 4 extra miles, right? So even at 20 miles an hour, that's 12 extra minutes. That's how hard they work to make that a flat-ish and fast course with very minimal turns. Like they worked hard. And then if you go back the year that they honestly did the same thing with 70.3. But the year that they had the 70.3 World Championships in Chattanooga, they did not take that route. They took the terrain that Chattanooga has to offer, right? Which is mountains, Signal Mountain, Lookout Mountain. Like they got mountains, some mountains for us in the South. But so they're, a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, my gosh, what's it going to be with this? What's going to be with this? What's going to be? Listen, the only thing I can tell you as a coach and as an athlete is, it's still the distance. It might be harder. It might be easier. But honestly, I mean, it's the mileage, right? You may have to change your effort. You may have to, honestly, the first thing that I thought of was, man, if they make that course like super hard and hilly, that might get me interested again. Like, I think it's just good to go out and do these hard things. So embrace it. Like if you train for 116, and don't tell me you've ridden the course on Rouvet or whatever and you're accustomed to it. Like, nobody cares. Like, just if you've trained up for 116 miles, you're already in your peak, just be ready to race. I mean, there's really nothing to worry about, in my opinion, whether it goes to 3 loops or not. But listen, if the race is the race, the distance is the distance, you got to get it done. If you bought a 144.6 shirt, well, you might be out of luck because it might be 140.6. But the best thing is just do the best you can, get out of the Facebook groups, and stop making it a bigger deal than it really is. A course map is a course map. How many course maps have you looked at your entire life and really, really went through them with a fine tooth comb and had an effect on your race, Mike?
Well, because I didn't go through them with a fine tooth comb, probably they had a major effect on my race. Yeah, this course, man. Yeah, the thing is, it's like, I think that people are getting so kind of alarmed by it is because I think a lot of people think Chat's bike course is kind of flat and fast and not that hard, but it's sneaky hard. I've talked about that in the past. I mean, it's a fair bike course. So you better be prepared either way. I mean, you might get a couple more 1,000 feet coming at you, and that's just definitely going to be, but when you go up, you got to come down. So there's going to be probably just some good speed out there too. So like you said, I also heard though that they might be changing the run course. Is this true?
Did you really? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I heard there was something about like, what is there, like some 6 Bridges marathon or something that they go. I mean, I saw a post in there. I shouldn't believe it, but
oh man, what are you doing in a non-race Facebook?
Well, I'll be honest. I've been, because I have a lot of people racing Chat, and I actually was asking them this morning if they heard it, because it's something to think about for sure. If they're going to change the race course, you kind of want to have an idea.
That's true.
We can talk about it. At least it's like okay, your strategy might be changing just a hair, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, you're a better coach than I am, because I would have just said, send me a few screenshots, but the last thing I'm doing is hopping into a Facebook group.
Well, I don't know how you found out. I guess somebody told you.
Oh yeah, I do a little bit of offline research.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. Sometimes you just get fed shit, and I'm like, wait, what's this? And then you get in there, man. I cannot tell you how. I think how we have like. We do shit on purpose just to, get us a little pissed or something. And I think that's one of the things I do is go into these Facebook groups about races.
For a little extra motivation.
Either that or it's sort of like, okay, maybe it's changed. Maybe it's a better situation, but man, we've just been around this stuff so much that we've seen probably every question ever asked. And it's like people still asking about that shit. It kind of, it's pretty weird.
See, what I'm hearing is in the lead up to Wisconsin, you're going to be perusing through the Facebook race groups for bulletin board material.
Oh, I don't know.
That's what I'm hearing. You're going to be poking in there, and you're going to be looking for some bulletin board material to kind of piss you off and, rub you up and edge you up so you're getting pumped and primed for race day. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I realized, I took the app off my phone, and then I somehow logged in just because we have our shit in there. Sometimes it's easier. And then I find myself looking at it, and I'm like, why, Lord?
I know.
What
it's addictive. It's addictive. That's what Zuckerberg did. He made it addictive on purpose.
I mean, the CIA. Anyway,
spit out drink.
Man, yeah. So it's just weird how that becomes, like when I had it off my phone, this is an interesting question. Like, other than, your apps, or like maybe, you're talking to athletes, or you have your communication channels on there. When you don't have Instagram or Facebook, I kind of open my phone sometimes and I'm like, what am I even doing? Like, what am I doing here? Because like, you don't go to www, you don't search shit like that anymore. You know what I mean? Like the internet, like the phone gets to be this place where you realize that you are just wasting time when you don't 100%. Have apps. When you don't have apps, I've opened that like Safari a million times. I'm like, what am I going to look for now? It's nothing. It's like, I don't know. Then you like type in Amazon and order some shit. That's like, it's just like, that's what you do on phones. It's so ridiculous, man.
You're so right. We're not going to go on app control here, but you're 100% true. So I don't have Instagram. I've got Facebook, obviously, but that's not on my phone either. But I do, like, even with like Safari, I'm like, what the fuck am I looking on Safari? Like, I've got a laptop 6 feet away from me with the screen 20 times the size with things I can actually do on there work wise. And it is. I think it's outside. I will say the saving grace for me is I can listen to a podcast or music from it. But what I've been doing recently is setting some music on my phone, putting my AirPod in, and then putting my phone in a different room. So I can still listen to music, and I like to listen to music when I work. So, that's pretty much the only saving grace. That and TriCalc. Eliana is the next question. How much attention should I pay to the Training Peaks scores, fatigue, fitness, and form? It's been high for me this week, but I'm adding more. I'm feeling okay, but I wonder TP scores or how I feel. Always how you feel. We've gone through this a couple times. So the fatigue, fitness, and form model in Training Peaks, you can find your dashboard, or if you pay the premium pricing, which they make you pay now to see those scores. Because I get this question from athletes all the time, like, "Hey, do you know I'm losing this?" I'm like, "Listen, for those to be even accurate for how the scoring system and the algorithm has been made for Training Peaks to even be accurate, and even then, I don't think it's accurate. But again, for it to be accurate under their standards for their algorithm, every single one of your zones has to be created. So you have to know a swim test, a bike test, and a run test. For power and heart rate in both in cycling, pace and heart rate in running, and then pace in swimming. Then once you get those, you have to put them in the settings, go under zones, put in your threshold, what you want to do, what metric do you want to base it off, and then whose zone breakdown do you want to use? Do you want to use Friel? Do you want to use Coggin? Do you want to use heart rate? Do you want to use power? So you got to do all those, and then you got to put them in. Then you got to hit save. Always hit save. And then it will utilize your TSS, or your training stress score, to take the amount of stress you accumulated in each session. And then that's how it comes with your fatigue, right? So it's usually negative, your fitness, which should be positive, or your form, which is what you kind of the end factor of fatigue and fitness, and you should be on form when you're about to race. All of that to even get their algorithm to be right. But the sad part is their algorithm isn't even correct, in my opinion. Like I've talked about this a lot before, the training stress score and how it doesn't take into account multiple sessions, right? So, if Mike, like for you, your perfect example, you look at your Training Peaks and you probably did like 6 things yesterday, right? Paddleboard here, a little aqua bike, little rail bike, maybe a double bike, then a run, then a walk. I didn't. Scores. What'd you say?
Yeah, I swam yesterday.
Yeah, here you're going to swim like you're doing like a 6-tuplet brick.
No.
And so you look at that, and what Training Peaks does is it takes every single one of those as an individual session. So like it takes your 20-minute paddleboard and your 20-minute swim and your 20-minute bike or whatever, it's for ease of use. And it takes each one of those individually and gives it a score, as if you only did that in a vacuum. But the truth is like if you look at, let's say you get up and you do an hour-and-a-half bike, and then in the middle of the day you do a run, and then you do a swim afterwards, and you're getting you're getting pretty pumped, and you went on Facebook and you read one of the Facebook groups, and now you got some bullets on the team, like, I'm gonna hop on the bike, I'm gonna smash it again. Hop on the bike around 6 o'clock. Your fatigue and your stress from that bike isn't going to be the 80 that it might generate because of that bike in a vacuum is 80, because previously in the day you did all those other things. So you're already fatigued. It also doesn't take into account temperature, dew point, humidity, all those things, a recovery cycle, build cycle, how much fatigue are you carrying? When are you carrying it? So again, short answer is no, don't pay attention to those. But I think, again, we talk about this a ton, is that the Training Peaks does a really great job of selling numbers and data in pretty forms in a way that make a lot like an app, right, on your phone, that makes you feel like you need it. Like I have to have it. And if I don't have it, then I'm not going to know what's going on. Right. I got to have Facebook or I'm not going to know what's going on. Like back in the day, we used to wait for a paper to come every morning, so you're not going to be in the know. So I think it's a sell tactic. And again, even if you have your zones perfectly created, there's still a whole lot of room for error on that. And that's why going with how you feel is so much more important. Right. And so, no, there's not a lot to take from it because I doubt your zones are correct. And even if they are correct, it's nothing that I would, allow to make or break your day. A lot like, using, a Oura Ring or a Whoop band to track HRV and, resting heart rate. A lot of, I would say 95% of the time you can guess what it's going to be before you open it up. So it's more confirmation bias, I think, in a lot of ways. And so you shouldn't make it the dictator. You should, maybe you can use it to inform decisions, but I would say for you, I would just, go by what you feel. Because the biggest mistake people make is when they chase the fitness data point in Training Peaks. I've seen more athletes be overtrained by chasing that one metric than really anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think it's kind of ridiculous, some of that stuff. I talk about feel, and I think, it's like, how do you feel? And you'd be like, I feel great. I'd be like, no, you don't. It's like going up in front of like a Training Peaks Hell Week council or something. There's like 5 people sitting there and you walk in and you feel awesome. And then they open a laptop and they go, you feel like shit right now. I'm like, no, I don't. Yeah, you're in hell.
Yeah,
it's like, no.
That's right.
I mean, but like, you got to pay attention to how you feel. I don't, like when I get up, I don't make my decision based on my first few steps because that's always going to be a little bit off, when I get out of bed, but in a minute you can tell how you slept. If you pay attention to these kind of things, you should know how you feel. And I don't know, man. I think a lot of it is, those also, I don't know if they like would take into effect how you've been fueling and hydrating and eating, like I think, my thing with a lot of people in myself is if I start to feel like really run down, I know I'm not getting enough hydration, man. It's just really kind of that simple to me. Like, especially when it gets hot out and, you can tell like, there's just signs that you can tell, like you get hotter, faster or something. If you're going to go out and run in the heat, and you're not hydrated up from the last couple of days, yeah, it's probably going to take a harder effect on you, man. I just think that there's stuff in our cells that matter, and if you're depriving them, the week before, the couple of days before, that morning or whatever, it's like you don't, you're really big into doing fasted workouts. I mean, that's putting a lot of stress on you. But if you get some, fuel in you before you run or do something in the morning, that's a big deal, man. And then you can feel awesome even when you're in it, but then afterwards you start hitting a wall. You're like, oh, I'm training too much. No, you're not fueling, you're not hydrating, you're not taking care of your body. You're probably not getting enough sleep. Eating too many corn chips or whatever,
Too many what?
Corn chips, like Frito.
Corn. Oh yeah.
I don't know. Anything with that garbage in it, that I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm just saying you got to pay attention to that. And I think this exhaustion factor, which I just kind of went through, and I didn't really want to, I don't think I should pin it on my training. I just think it was my habits around it. I felt really good, and then I went for it. And that's what did it. And I didn't prepare myself to go for it.
You brought up a couple good points that I was like, I'm going to bring this up when you're done, but I don't have to. But you talked about, going into a workout fasted. Recovery is going to be longer, and that's going any workout. But then again, not recovering afterwards, higher stress. You wake up and you eat a little bit, and then you go do an hour and a half hard ride, and then you come home, you take a shower, you run up, you get dressed, you head to work, and you're like, damn, I forgot my snack or my my post workout shake, and I'm not going to eat till 12. Huge increase in your ability to recover. But just like you said, the heat, how you there's so many, I'm hard on my athletes like this sometimes when I just hamp or harp on common sense. You know, I'm like, let's think through a little bit why this was this way. Oh, well, it was this. Yep, just didn't like. Had an athlete who's in amazing shape, had a great workouts on Friday, and then went out for a ride on Saturday, and I had some descriptions in there. I was like, I don't want you taking any carbs for the first hour, and then after the first hour, I want you to put carbs in. And he commented afterwards. He was like, no. He was like, I had not a very good ride. I didn't feel very well. It doesn't have any legs today, and after such a great day yesterday. And I said, hey, like, did you, how many carbs did you take in after that first hour? He's like, I took my normal amount, but when I look back on things, it wasn't the carbs today. It was a lack of carbs yesterday because he had a hard run and a hard ride and didn't fuel enough with carbs after those to replenish it. So he went in the next day extra depleted. Like those small little, like taking 30 extra seconds to kind of think through and triage, like how we kind of got here. That's all you need. Because I honestly believe people have gotten, especially athletes, with all the metrics, it makes you lazy, right? It's like living in a town for 3 years and you only use GPS. When it's gone, you don't know where anything is because you've only gone by GPS. You haven't, like, back in the day, it's like, hey, you're going to want to go 4 streets down, take a left, and then you're going to keep going. And then when you see the Wendy's, the second right after that, you're going to take a right, and then you go down, I don't know, about 4 or 5 miles to see this big church on the left. It's just past that. That's how you get directions, right? Because you had to pay attention to your surroundings and things that were around you. But now people just put on auto drive. They don't pay attention. They're on their phones the whole time, or their cars, bumping into people and doing all kinds of things and running over squirrels and dogs, or they're not paying attention to their surroundings. That's exactly how it is when people get obsessed with data. Is they lose the bigger picture. And they just go off the number. They don't go off their true gut and what they're feeling because they're so detached from it. So I just think it's super important to go with your gut and understand what it is to do that. And then again, just use a little bit of critical thinking and common sense can get you very, very, very far in life, especially now, because I feel like those skills are slowly becoming few and far between.
Yeah. And, I've been, as I said many times, I've been experimenting with power, for example, and I'm really thinking about just ditching it for this race again. And I'll tell you why is because I'm not a mechanical, like to me, that feels mechanical. At least that's where I'm at in my power cycle of life. Yeah, it's just like, there's something about being tied to a data point when it could be, it could be right on. It could be way off. I just, I'm, if I feel like riding my bike, I'm going to ride it, It's like, that's kind of.
It really is that easy, right? It's like, or if the same thing, like if you feel like hammering it, hammer it. If you don't feel like hammering it, don't hammer it.
Yeah.
Like it really is. I'm telling you, 90% of the success we can have in the sport, it comes down to like that level of simplicity when we look at our training. And the best athletes that I work with, and I'm sure the best athletes that you work with, again, not the fastest, but the ones that get the most head themselves, are the ones that take the autonomy to make those decisions in the moment for themselves. Hey, coach, I know you had a threshold workout today. After 25, 30 minutes, I wasn't feeling it, so I cruised out in zone 2. Kudos, round of applause, standing ovation, high five. Well done. Mm-hmm. Same goes for, hey, coach, I know you had an easy ride today, but I got on the bike and I was just feeling it, and I just wanted to hammer it today. Okay, we'll have to adjust the next few days, but way to go. Listen to your body, take advantage of the moment, seize the day. I'm telling you that there's so much success to be found in that level of simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, good old Zachary Bell. How to stay on track and not make drastic changes to training after your goal race for the season did not go as planned. You probably summed up your answer right there. Your goal race for the season probably didn't go as planned, maybe because you make drastic changes. So this is very, very common for self-coached athletes. that they make very drastic. I mean, kind of like we talked about last week, like you make drastic changes based on lack of information or the swing and the miss on the data that you're looking at, and you come to the wrong conclusion. And therefore you start working towards a totally different direction. It's like going down the road and you think you're supposed to take a right, but take a left. And you think that's the right way, only to figure out once you've gotten 15 minutes down the road that you have to turn right back around because you should have taken a right. That's how a lot of athletes deal with training. And the other part of it is there's a very high, again, this isn't me saying you don't know what you're doing, but there's a high likelihood that you're probably not even 100% sure what needs to be done to get to where you want to go. Where are you excelling? Where are you not? Because a lot of athletes think that they excel in areas that they actually don't, right? Or that they're better at this when in fact they are not. And so by adjusting a few things, you can get better and faster, quicker. It's just you have to be very, very informed, and to be informed, and again, not just informed, but have that information that's accurate, and then make a plan for it to work. So, I mean, I wouldn't make any changes. I would try to figure out what actually truly needs to be changed, not that you think needs to be changed, and then create a plan that you'll stick with, which can be hard, right? That's why people have coaches, because they don't want to think through that, or they can't think through it, or they don't have the time to, or they want someone else to bounce things off of. So you're not alone. A lot of people do that. A lot of people come to us because they yo-yo back and forth between 17 different training methods, and they can't figure out what's work when they're just kind of, again, you're blindfolded swinging at the pinata, which is your own physiology, and you can't seem to make it stick.
Can you repeat Zach's question, please?
Yeah.
Exactly for me?
Zachary Bell. How to stay on track and not make drastic changes to training after your goal race for the season did not go as planned. Asking for a friend, laughing emoji face.
Yeah. Well, tell your friend. No, that yeah, you said it about the coaching. I think that really is it. When it's even when you and I talk through things, it's sort of like helping the other person understand themselves better, and it's like sitting on a couch, sometimes it's like, hey, you keep saying, this is something that's going to work for you, and this is something that's not going to work for you, but you have, it's almost like you have to help them understand, right, the answers themselves and figure it out. So, I don't know. Drastic changes, I think that's the easy way to kind of look at stuff sometimes, and people do it. It's like, but there are certain things that work. And, I was just talking to like a couple athletes, just finished their year with me, and they're just talking about next year. And I'm like, this is how we got to go about it. Let's figure out what we want to do and how we go about it. And by the time you get to next year, hopefully, we won't be in, the goal is to not be in cramming mode, like for the final or something. It's like just to absorb things along the way, improve here, and be, just reminded of the things that should be focused on along the way, and just getting better at them. It's almost like sometimes you don't even notice until you look back a couple months.
And I think a lot of people will sit, and this is, I think, where a lot of people get in trouble with their own training, is that they sit and they wait and they try to figure out a plan to make it work, and then they can't ever figure out the right time for it to work. And so they put off training, or they put off getting a coach, they pull off working up a plan because they want to figure out exactly what needs to be done at the exactly right time. Right. And I think that holds a lot of people back, and a lot of times, like those things can be adjusted on the fly, but never stop moving to figure out a goal when the goal is actual movement. I feel like I really need to figure this out, and don't again, paralysis by analysis. So move forward, but again, usually drastic changes are not. Unless don't consider it. If it's a drastic change, it's not a drastic change. It's a specific movement in a known direction. Two very different things. Chris Kaufman. I did a sprint and an Olympic this year and have 2 half marathons to do to complete my season. When it comes to the bike, I did all my training outside. Kudos to you. I did not have a power meter or a cadence sensor. It's like I can feel Mike blushing right now. I'm wondering what would be the best thing to invest in first, power meter or smart trainer? Power meter. It's not even close. It's not even close. You don't even like to ride outside, dude. Why are you buying a smart trainer?
Yeah.
I did all my training outside. Again, high five, even like maybe like a side chest bump and another fist bump. Good for you doing all your training outside, but 100%. Buy a power meter, and then if you end up riding inside, then just get a dumb trainer and put your bike on it. Easy. This is probably the easiest question of the day.
Yeah, even for somebody like me who doesn't even like power meters. I really don't.
Very, very easy one.
It just sucks you in. It's kind of pretty, but I mean, no. Honestly, it has helped me with understand my efforts, and I think that's the biggest benefit for me.
Mm.
I'm just not a script. I don't like the script.
You don't like the script.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I like to, like, what is it? Impromptu comedy was always kind of one of my favorite things. But
you're more of an improv guy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that.
There's baselines, within the improv. That's how I like to think about it.
Well, and you can. And I think you said it really well, is that you can use a power meter periodically to check how calibrated your internal governor is.
Right.
Like when I'm training a lot, and I'm training a lot of being consistent with and knowing where I am, I can guess what watts I'm putting out by 10 watts. But when I'm getting back into training and I'm kind of like trying to train with the body that I had 6 months ago before I took some time off, I need it. I need it to make sure my calibration isn't like way, 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 way off. But then once you get it, I'm telling you, you can guess the watts, like again, within like 5 to 10. Same with like your running pace. Like you can don't stare to watch. You can based on effort and breathing rate and routes. Like when your watch clicks off, you can probably guess what it is between 5 seconds and 10-second difference in pace. So again, I think that's a very good way to kind of just use it as more of a governor and to check your governor and like internal calibration, make sure it's right. And then again, going back to Liana's question, and then just going off your effort, and how that feels. So I think, power meter for sure. But again, like you said, don't be the one that stares at it 24/7.
Yeah.
Or be afraid to go over, like I've ridden outside the last 2 weeks and haven't ridden inside. And I catch myself because as a coach, like I'm always thinking through data and numbers and physiology. And then like I was at this point where, and I had like laughed at myself. I was like, I knew this light was about to turn red and I didn't want to fucking stop. And it was about to turn yellow and I could have just gotten on the saddle and just hammered it to make my way through and have some fun. And I didn't. I like sat back and I was like, no, I'm going to stay in my zone and relax a little bit. I stopped at that light and I was just pissed. Sat there for a minute. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to have some fun. Got back up and soft pedaled until I saw the next light turn yellow and then just got out of my saddle and fucking hammered it and had a blast. It was way out of the zone that I was doing, but it was just fun. And so again, like, there's a time and a place for all those things, but if you're not smiling and you're not having fun doing it, then you're not going to do it for long.
Mm. Man, it's interesting. I don't know. The obviously on the hills, it's showed me, a lot of understanding that I'm pretty much a masher when I climb, which is a good thing. But the one little subtle part of training with a power meter that's, I think, really kind of opened my eyes is coming out of corners.
The spikes.
Oh yeah. Cause I'm a big corner. I mean, like, I like to get into corners and try and come out of them. But like one of the things, for example, I've learned is when I go into a corner, I will go hard, but I'll downshift and I'll come out of it with a little higher cadence rather than stepping on it. So those are the, the little things I think that it's really helped me with. But also, like, I think, that's why I don't like a course like Florida, because I could never sit there and keep my normalized within 3, watts or or whatever the goal would be, 5 watts. That would drive me fucking crazy. So, sometimes I like opening my legs up too. I mean, I think, like, for me, for whatever reason, that works. You've seen it before where we go out riding and I just have to just blast for a while. And then I can kind of, it's almost like I raise my headroom or something. And then the easy stuff feels easier, and I don't know. It's a weird physiology thing that I am very intrigued by, to be honest. I like, for example, like what peak is too much, and how long of a lesser peak is too much. Those types of things are very interesting to me. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up like on that, in that same vein, like that same thought process is like you span that across all coaching, right? How much is too much? How little is too little, right? Even like you said, like I've been trying to figure out a way to like better predict, again, because you shouldn't rely on anything ultimately. You should always try to use your own experiences and the own experiences of your athletes and your experience with your old, with previous athletes to make educated, informed decisions about today and tomorrow. And so I've been trying to think about, all right, what's a great way to kind of like to test, without it being a test, right? How the taper is going and if we're peaking too early or not, right? And then if I'm going to put this in a 2-week taper, where do I put it in? Right? On, 13 days out? Or would that be too early and you still have fatigue to know if we're on the right track or not? Or put it at day 10, or would that be giving them too much time and then they nail it and they already peaked? Like there's all, and then if you do it like in the same vein, like, how much is too much? Like, some people need that activation to generate, whatever it is in their body that they need to generate. And some people are like that. They're fast twitch, they're slow twitch. Something's more dominant than the other and how they like to operate. Also, sometimes it's, I think, a level of excitement, like a dopamine rush, not dopamine rush, but like endorphins, like it just gets them excited and then they starts flowing through their veins and they start getting pumped. There's that. So there's like what you said in a nutshell is like, you could expand that to all coaching, right? And like how you're trying to figure out what's too much, what's too little, right? And some of that is great and it can be used with tech, but you also can't just marry it. You have to, because you could see this from an athlete standpoint, it looks like on paper they're feeling they're feeling fresh and they're firing in all cylinders. But if they're telling you that they're tired and their legs still feel like rocks, then what are you going to do? You're going to adjust it. Oh no, but the data says you're right on target. No, you're going to adjust it. Same goes for if the data says they're not feeling that great, but they said I'm feeling like I got a lot of snap in my legs. What are you going to do? No, actually you don't. The numbers say you're pretty sluggish. You can tell them that 3 days out from the race? No, you're going to go with how they feel. So again, like there's always should be this happy medium between, content and context on how we inform ourselves and how we try, again, and I say try because it's never an absolute or certainty, to make the best educated decision we can for that day and for the next session.
Yeah. That's on the person too a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like you said before about the person you referenced, like, and just being honest with yourself. Sometimes the athletes want to be feeling good or want to be feeling bad. Therefore, that's how they comment. When the reality is sometimes it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Kathleen McGinnity. I was just listening to a certain swimming focused podcast, and it was mentioned that there is little value in open water swimming.
Come on.
After 1 or 2 swims, just swimming without any type of intervals, that time is better spent in the pool. I think there's a lot of value in gathering endurance and comfort in the water. What are your thoughts? Well, I go back and forth on this one. And I actually think that's total bullshit. That's the worst advice you could possibly give, especially a triathlete. After what are you going to get for 1 or 2 sessions? What could you possibly get after 1 or 2 sessions that's going to give you plenty? No, I think that's horrific advice for probably 95% of all triathletes. Easy. Even from a guy like me who would rather swim open water than a pool, I can usually just kind of hop in and be very, very, very comfortable. I even notice I need more than 1 or 2 swims to feel really confident. It's just that's terrible advice, and that should not be called a swimming focus podcast.
Well, and I've heard that before many times, like you get faster in the pool. And I totally kind of get that. I think that's where they're coming from. But you can't tell me, as many times as we've seen people grabbing kayaks or whatever. But I mean, I think it's just a different animal, man. It's like, yeah, you can ride a trainer all year and probably get faster, but can you handle the bike? It's similar. Once you're taking corners on gravel and shit like that, or, once you hit a wave in your mouth, it's like you got to get used to that stuff. It's all about, we'll find out, right? I've just been swimming in open water, so.
Listen, there's a right amount of everything.
Yeah.
And 1 to 2 is not enough. I mean, it's just not. It's no way to get. I've done especially both. With the amount of breaks people take. I mean, listen, the amount of fatigue people get just from. So basically, what this person's saying is this: you can get used to swimming in a 25-yard pool. You can get used to going from a 25-yard pool into a 50-meter pool in just 1 to 2 swims.
Yeah,
no, you can't. Have you ever gone from swimming 25 yards to 50? It at least takes you 2 weeks. Because at the first day you go down and you get to the first 50 and about 35, 40 meters through, you're like, my arms are tired. You understand how much that break gives you in the 25-yard pool. So you're telling me right now, based on that little piece of horrific advice, that going from a 25-yard pool to a 50-meter pool, again, not even close to going to open water, you could be good after 1 or 2 swims. You're just fine. No, not even close.
Well, it is about calibrating, right? I mean,
yes.
When I get in the water now, and there's a place I can swim, it's like 100 yards from me, and I'll do hundreds a lot. But then when I get in to go on a longer, like a continuous swim, I have to really in my head map out that first 500 in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I have to be careful with it because I'm just not used to it. But I mean, it doesn't mean you're not strong enough. So I think it's all about, just like you're saying, feel and being able to control yourself in such a way that you realize you're not swimming 100 in a 25-yard pool or something like that, pushing up walls, stopping, whatever. It's just obviously you can do it. I mean, and if you're mentally ready for it and all that other kind of stuff, I think there's probably an argument for it, but you better be ready.
Exactly, right? Better be ready.
When somebody punches you and the wave hits your mouth and you're swallowing water or whatever.
Yeah. Tell that to all the people that just did Ironman Louisville 70.3 with no current and chop in the water. Yeah, you just need 1 to 2. You'd be just fine. Sean Roger, Ironman Kansas 70.3 used to be a destination for the pros and age groupers alike. Then it disappeared. I did the Legend 70.3, which was on that same course. I'd love it to come back to Kansas. Any thoughts if it will or not someday? I got no clue, man. I would probably say no. It'd be great, but they got Des Moines, which is 3 hours away in a great race. Although I think next year is the last year for it. Who knows? I'd love it. It'd be fantastic if it did. But yeah, it's not one in Missouri, not one in Kansas, not one in Oklahoma. I mean, who wants to go to Oklahoma? Nothing in Oklahoma. Yeah, it would be nice if it came back. But yeah, Lawrence, Kansas used to be where like Miranda Carefrey and Tim O'Donnell and Julie Dibbins, like they all used to go to Lawrence, Kansas for their Kona prep because it's very similar terrain, very hilly, like rolling hills, hot and windy, and they'd be there right about now in the end of August. So yeah, but again, that's probably why it disappeared. It was a hard course. Hard courses disappear, and then all the easier quote unquote courses stick around. Down river swims, wetsuit legal, pancake flat. That sells. Easy sells, but doesn't make you any better.
I vaguely remember that.
Chris Wilson.
Was that within
Chris
our
Wilson
range?
Say it again.
I vaguely remember that. Was that within the last 10 or so years?
Yeah. It was around, I think 9 or 10 years ago was the last time they had it. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it used to be a big deal. Not really a big deal, obviously, or it wouldn't have gone away. But of course, I think I moved here and it went away. Chris Wilson. I've done 4 halves and 4 fulls, self-coached. After 2 years off, I'm doing an Olympic in 12 weeks. How does training differ from longer course, as all the training plans I see seem to require a lot more training and effort than I would expect? Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And again, that's you always save money in a training plan, right? But you get what you pay for. And there's there's not everything, but you should get something catered to yourself. Because again, like there is no set amount of hours that you have to have or have to do to be good at any certain specific level of racing, from sprint to Ironman. It's all about, again, I think a lot of people get way too obsessed with intensity and volume, but the volume and intensity you do is only as good as your ability to absorb it. The volume and intensity you do is only as good as your ability to absorb it. And most triathletes think harder and longer and better is better. But if you can't absorb it, you're not getting faster, you're not actually adapting anything, and you're actually overtraining. So the best recipe is to find the perfect level of training for you, the perfect level of intensity for you that you can recover from, and then allows you to do it week after week after week after week, and then month after month. That's how you get better. So I mean, again, it's probably very personal to you, but that's where I would start.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, man, but like if I read something like a book or something, I can kind of think I know it, and then I just forget everything. It's like I'm getting old, as we discussed, but I think the coaching and the plan differential. To me, it's in the communication and the talking things through and figuring things out together, and reminding somebody that, hey, this isn't what we were planning, and why are you doing this? So yeah, I mean, Olympic training obviously should not be taken lightly. I think, no. It's just, a lot of people, kind of be like, I just did a full or a half. I can do an Olympic. But it's just a different.
Just did the Oli.
Yeah, I'm just going to stick to the Oli piece of cake. And it can be, but most times when people say, hey, I want to do an Olympic, they don't want to just go out and go through the motions. They want to, if you want to race it, it's different than if you want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you find some people that train more for an Olympic than they do a 70.3. Because again, sometimes it's more or less, right? And I think it's all about what fits better into your life, and that's traditionally the hardest thing for age groupers is, volume is usually the best answer because it's the safest way as long as you're controlling the intensity, but you don't have enough time, right, to do all the volume. So then if you're doing less volume, then you want to do more intensity, but with more intensity becomes the need for more recovery, right, which can lead to even less volume because you need more recovery. or you're doing too much intensity and you can't recover. So you get in the same position as before. So it's a very, very delicate balance, but there is absolutely no perfect way to train for every person. If there is, everyone would be an elite and there would be no coaches. Like, it's just not that way. I know, for example, I had, it was 2 years ago. I had two of the guys I had in Kona. One averaged for the 6 months before, averaged 9 hours a week in training. The other one averaged, I think, 16 and a half. Both very similar. Both ended up with pretty much not the exact same time, but very close to the same time. And here's the thing is, like, even once you figure out what works for you, it might not always work for you anymore. Right? Your body changes, your life changes, the demands of your life changes, your recovery needs change, right? Especially as we age. So I know this probably isn't very helpful, but I'm giving you more questions than answers. But that's why training plans aren't answers. They're just guesses. Let's see. We got time for one more. Good old Tina Brown. I participated in the run program last off season and saw some improvement in my pacing. When's a good time to retest and see where my baseline is now? Very good question. I'd wait about 3 weeks maybe. And then actually I would just wait till the temperature changes permanently. You never want to change like right on the cusp of like yo-yoing back and forth. Like, it's about to be summer. Like, don't go out and test only to have your zone need to be drastically changed 2 weeks later because it's now 100 degrees. Like, the same vein, don't go out tomorrow when it's 105, 76 dew point, and it feels like 75 in the morning, and go out and do your run and run your 5K, get heart rate and pace, only for 8 days later for it to be a high of 71 and low of 55 for the next 3 months. So I like to wait for, again, you can't predict a permanent seasonal change, but you can get pretty close. And then go from there. But yeah, I would redo it then again, because kind of like I said above, like this, right now is the beginning of a lot of people's off season, quote unquote, and how they're planning for 2025, depending on how early or late their race is. It's either time for some time off, 2 to 3 weeks to go, enjoy. I mean, hell, it's to me, it's the best weekend of the year. One of the best weekends. You got college football and you got the U.S. Open and you got Labor Day and usually some good fall weather. It's hard to beat. So go out, enjoy yourself, right? Maybe take a few weeks off, but for other you've already taken some time off and you're already looking towards next year. And now, maybe you got an early season race. Well, it's not that far away, so you got to start planning for them. But yeah, I would wait for running specifically. Like, it's like you're inside on a trainer doing testing in a controlled environment at 72 degrees with your fan blowing your face, or in the pool, right? Set yardage, in set environment. It's ever changing. So I would wait till the seasonal change and do it, and then you can probably run that. I mean, again, this is the best seasonal change you'll have because it's only going to get a little bit colder, so you should be good from let's call it mid-September all the way through December, until you might have to adjust a little bit because you might go back inside because it gets too cold, or you might have to adjust up or down because it is so cold that it's actually causing your body to work harder to keep itself warm, and therefore it's the same impact on your body energy system than it is if it's too hot.
Yeah. Well, Tina, since you're doing Wisconsin 70.3 next weekend, we're going to use that as a test. How's that sound?
Ooh, busted. Yeah, and stay focused on your race.
Yeah. We can do that, sometime after that race.
Tina, dial it in, honey. Stop thinking about, this is what people do though during race season. They're a week out and they're like, hey, what about this? I'm like, you got 1 week. All you got to do is make it 8 more days, and then you're free to think. But right now, let's keep it dialed in. Come on, Tina, you know better than that. Scolded, busted. Tina Brown, please report to the principal's office. Ooh, busted.
I will be calling her as soon as we get off this.
What'd you say?
Be calling her as soon as we get off this podcast. No, I'm not going to do that. But I will be talking to you, and we can discuss that at the end,
Right, Tina,
at the appendix of our conversation.
See me after the podcast. It's like the see me after class. We got a lot more questions, but I'm running out of saliva to keep my mouth dry, or keep my mouth all nice and moistened up and not dry. So we're gonna cut it today. We got, again, plenty of other questions we can get to on Thursday. So we'll get to a lot of these other ones. Lots of questions, and hey, who knows? By then, maybe we'll know what the Ironman Chattanooga bike course will be. We can talk more about that. But as always, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com, and is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he is available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. If you need anything from me specifically, I am at Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right.
All right, dude. See you Thursday.
See ya.